we don't have any like good music anymore. Like we peaked like as an empire, and like, you know, #1 song in America now would be like WAP. You know what I mean? Like you're not getting like these classics. So DXY hit 108 yesterday, closed at 108. The DXY is a relative dollar strength indicator as far as how the dollar shapes up to other fiat currencies. Essentially, it's like a Zillow for like how, like the market value of your crack house on Crack House Row. So it's like, okay, you got the yen out there, you've got like all these different crack houses, you got a palace down the road called the ruble, the Russian ruble that's pegged to gold. The DXY, which is a relative dollar strength index, and it's called the Dixie. And whenever this thing has gotten above like 104, 105, 106, everything's broken. Today, this morning, it's at 108. It's probably going to continue rising higher. There's a reason for this. So even though domestically we have a lot of inflation, like a ton of inflation, and interest rates should be higher than the rate of inflation. So that if you're a bank, or let's just say you're an equipment manufacturer and you sell Bobcats, used Bobcats, and you would want your rate of a Bobcat to be like 7.9% interest rates. But the interest rates in the or the inflation rate in the general economy on last print was 8.6. Now we know that these are fake numbers, but 8.6 is higher than 7.9, which means that you're guaranteed not only to take uncompensated for risk, you're guaranteed to take a loss just on your purchasing power as the bank. Like you're like loaning money at 7.9 and you're losing money or losing value at 8.6. So in theory, you need to be loaning money at like 10, 12, 14, so that you're higher than the rate of inflation. The DXY doesn't care about domestic inflation. The DXY is a relative strength indicator as far as how it shapes up to the price of other fiat currencies, like the Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, name your favorite currency, like the Swiss franc, etc. And so the DXY climbing is an issue, and it's almost a guarantee to happen because other nations use the dollar. They have dollar-denominated debt, they have dollar-denominated expenses, they've got to buy oil, which is largely priced in dollars. And so what other countries need is they need a weaker dollar. They need a dollar that's 90, 80, 70, 60, and instead this thing's at 108 and climbing. And what they need, like other countries, is they need a dollar with a falling interest rate, a falling relative rate to other things. But what they're getting is a short squeeze on dollars, because as the world needs dollars, there's not enough of them. As crazy as that sounds, there's just not enough dollars for how many are needed because everybody's utilizing it. And so it creates this weird situation where other currencies fall. Let's just say like the Colombian peso or whatever it may be is falling relative to the dollar, which is making like it's sending back this doom vortex where Colombian goods are becoming cheaper and American goods are becoming more expensive, when in fact what's necessary is the exact opposite of that. Colombian goods need to become higher in value so that as they sell them, they can obtain more dollars. It's just messed up situation because it's just how this system that has been around for 80 years, but has been a fiat system for 50 years. It's just how it's set up. It's like the architecture of the machine. And there are no adults at this point in time. There are no leaders like Biden's and Trudeau's and that want to sit down and competently discuss how to fix this. Instead, they're just kind of letting it play out. And so it's weird. It's like having a truck that's not running well and just saying like, well, it's running good enough. Example being this truck. I'm having a fuel issue with it. It's not sucking fuel after like a half a tank. If you keep it full, it's fine, but if it's not, so I have an issue with the fuel lines in the tank. We're gonna have to put it on a lift this afternoon, drop the tank, drain the fuel, drop the tank, change the lines out. And it's just old. It's just the lines are corroded and it's just time for new lines. But no one wants to sit down and just pull the dollar system into the shop and say, okay, engineers, world leaders, everybody get in the shop wear your scrubs. Like, we're gonna fix this problem. Like, let's go to the whiteboard and let's figure this out. Instead, it's like, it's good for us, it's bad for you, oh well. And so we're just exacerbating this problem. Next things you need to watch for: Japanese yen, like, complete collapse. Like, that's the next thing. One of these G7s is gonna fall. Countries like Sri Lanka, they're gonna be falling like right and left. You're gonna see a new Sri Lanka story every week, if not like every month. But G7s are one of those things where you're like, oh man, G7s, like, you're talking Germany, Japan, America, Russia. Like, these are the G7s, largest countries in the world. It looks like Japan might be the first G7 elite to go. Yesterday, Nord Stream pipeline was shut down to Germany. Getting Germany and Japan all confused. Get to Germany, it's scheduled. It's like planned maintenance on this pipeline. It's supposed to come back up on the 21st. We'll see, right? So if it doesn't come back up on the 21st, then Putin's essentially going to squeeze these folks, and where they're not going to be able to fill their tanks before winter. And if you know anything about Germany, it's a place that gets cold. The sun doesn't shine much there, but they decided several years ago to power themselves on solar. So the sun doesn't run there much. It doesn't, it doesn't shine much, but they're going to run solar. Go Germany. So the reality is they're going to be burning coal or they're going to starve. And it's unclear if, like, German leadership is not about that. Like, it kind of appears like German leadership is like World Economic Forum people, and they're just kind of like, it'll be hilarious, like 10 million Germans just freezing to death this winter. That would be great. It's really, really, truly unclear what team all of these world leaders are playing on. The Biden family and crime syndicate, I mean, all of them. It's really, really, truly unclear. This is why you don't want governments, folks. Like, I'm an anarchical capitalist. There's no reason that you need a town mayor or an HOA president. You don't want these people. But that's how people like to organize themselves. And when times get bad, they're going to beg for more. They're going to beg for more, just like the Rona times. Like, oh my goodness, the government needs to do more. It's like, no, government doesn't need to do anything. Like, remember all the Trump people? And I love picking on the Trump people because they're so like, make America great again. And it's like, do you remember when that one guy, I think his name was Donald, he was like, I'm going to shut down the U.S. economy. I don't want to do it. It's the greatest economy in the world, but I'm going to shut it down because I have to. Really? Like, you're so, like, all-knowing, you're so, like, all-powerful, you're gonna shut down the world's economy? Or, like, I mean, the American economy, which is essentially, like, the kingpin of, like, the world's economy. You're just gonna do that. You're gonna lead, like, all world leaders did the same thing. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna leave it up to the people. We don't know much about this thing. We got some data. China's scaring people with the photos coming out of there. We don't know what's true and not true. Be cautious. Here's what we know. Putting it out there. Other than that, make your own decisions. You are in charge of your own life. No, Trump was like, I'm in charge of your life. I will dictate what's happening. And all the Trump tards are like, Trump's the best. And it's like, okay, so you shut down the American economy, so you reduce goods and services in circulation. You decided we are not going to produce goods and services at the same level we were producing yesterday, and we're going to print 10 trillion additional currency units. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to have less goods and services and more currency units. And guess what? On the DXY, as far as the global worldwide dollar supply, it still wasn't enough because those dollars stayed domestically. They didn't flood the world with dollars. They did do swap lines and stuff, another video, another time. But essentially, watch this DXY. I have it on my Apple phone, which I'm not a fan of Apple phones, but it's like, what else are you gonna do? Like Google phone, what are you gonna do? But I've got it like right here. Like, I like to track that. It's like one of the things I look at every day. I look at like the price of several things so that I know which way things are going. So I kind of know how my macro view is lining up, because at some point in time, this game is going to be over. And it's not going to be over all at once. It's just going to be a little bit, go to bed on go out on the weekend on a Friday, wake up on a Monday, and they're going to change the rules on you. They did this in 1933. People closed the banks on a Friday. On a Monday, they said, hey, if you have gold inside the bank vaults, you can no longer own it. Good news, though, we're going to give you $20 bills for it. It's the same as gold. Don't worry. You don't need the gold. It's cool. And then immediately they repriced the gold to $35 an ounce. So you had a piece of gold one morning. They took it from you. They gave you a $20 bill, which is what it was worth. And then immediately they repriced it to $35. So you lost 40% of your purchasing power. It's what they do, man. And everyone was like, oh, thank God Roosevelt did this. It was so good that he did this. And like, you know, nobody had the balls. Like, nobody had the balls to be like, you know what we invented in America? We invented the rifle. And it's not going to take a lot of people with one of those to fix this Roosevelt problem. But nobody had the balls. And so, you know, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And you're in the exact same thing. And these plebs are going to beg for it. Like, they're going to beg for their digital ration ID card, et cetera, et cetera. And the solution, the only solution, is creating a parallel economy. This is why I push, like, the homestead stuff. This is why I push owning physical silver and gold. I'm a broker for physical silver and gold and palladium. If you want that, like, or platinum, excuse me. If you want that stuff, reach out to me. My email is below. I'm a broker for Miles Franklin. I would absolutely love to help your family, like, protect whatever they don't want to lose. That's what I want you to know, is like, whatever you don't want to lose, whatever you can't afford to lose, wherever you've gotten to in life, you're gonna need fiat currency. There's no way around that. But wherever you're like, you know what, I've got $100,000 net worth, I don't want to lose 10 grand of it. I just don't want to lose it. If I lost 90 of it, whatever, but I don't want to start at zero again. You need to move it into silver. And then when the gold to silver ratio becomes more reasonable, not 1 to 90, but more historical, 1 to 20 was what it was when Roosevelt took the gold from the people, right? 1 to 20, 1 to 40, 1 to 50 has been like the, you know, the last 50-year mean average. It's at 1 to 90. So what you do is you take your silver and you flip into gold. It's like getting gold at 50% off. That's what you do. And at the end of the day, the very end of the day, these G7 nations are going to want to settle global trade, whatever global trade may exist, mainly oil, mainly the good things, not socks, not t-shirts, like not, you know, little cheap plastic glasses. Like, those things are things that you're going to have to produce domestically in whatever nation you live in. But the important stuff, the stuff that is worth protecting from pirates as the U.S. Navy breaks down and can't patrol as many contact points, as countries like Sri Lanka have 18-year-old, 21-year-old men that are like, where are the opportunities? Boys, the opportunities are in getting a boat, getting your boys together, and getting a state-sponsored piracy act. All right, go hook up with a nation that wants you to go do like piracy for them. Like, they do this all the time. They do this with cyber hackers. They do this all the time. They're always paying mercenaries. And you want to be one of those guys. And as that happens, the U.S. military is just not going to be able to patrol it. All right, it's going to be like everyone's blitzing the quarterback, and there are no wide receivers out there. The U.S. Navy is going to get sacked. It's just what it is. And so, mainly because they're just not going to be able to patrol the contact points. Not that they're not going to be able to fully engage in whatever interaction they have with one of those boats. But what I'm saying is that you're not going to be able to ship cargo boats or cargo containers at the rate, at the cost that you used to. You're going to have to, you know, the price is going to 10x, right? The amount of shipments that are going to come in are going to like half. That's what I'm saying. And so the price of socks is going to 4x, 5x, like, or you're just gonna have to produce them here. And that's what has to happen. The price of socks has to rise so that it makes sense for me to go buy this building over here and produce socks and pay American workers to produce socks. That's what's gonna have to happen all over the entire world. So, protect yourselves, be your own central bank, look at what's going on, be aware of this. It's kind of funny and humorous. We're gonna be like, we are the best crack house on Crack House Row. But we are still a crack house, and it is important that you get off the crack house. At least what you don't want to lose. Like, take your belongings and like have them somewhere else, because eventually this crack house is going to burn down. And in the very end, at the very end of the dollar milkshake theory here, Brent Johnson, I'll link to some of his stuff. I'll put his name here in the description. But Brent Johnson is like an absolute boss on the dollar milkshake theory. He's had this since 2019, and it's playing out exactly how he said it was going to happen. Dude, it's rough. Like, the very end game, like right now we watch all these other nations burn. The very end game, all of the chickens come home to roost for America. Like, it's bad times. So whatever you don't want to lose, move over to sound money. And if you want to see changes, you have to build a parallel economy. You have to be a producer, and you have to move to sound money, and you have to share this with your friends, your family, your parents, your brothers, your siblings, your children. You've got to share this information and say, you know what we need to not do? We need to not use the US dollar. We need to not pay taxes to the IRS. We need to not be using, you know, transactions through the banking system. We need to have a parallel economy. We need to move to cryptocurrencies. We need to move to silver, gold, copper. We need to move out of the system and create a new system based on sound money fundamental principles. And whether you like it or not, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen regardless. But you want to move there earlier, because when all the crack houses on Crack House Row burn down, everyone's going to be showing up. and you're gonna be the guy that's got like the sock factory, and like you're like, hey, you guys got sound money? No, we don't. Okay, well, here's how you can get sound money. You can work in my factory and I'll pay you. And then you start an economy. And that's how it was. That's how it's been for 5,000 years. It's just the last 50 years where we thought we were smarter than that. And I don't know which one's gonna work. Is it different this time, or is it gonna be 5,000 year history trumps 50-year history? I'm gonna put my money on the 5,000 year history. Thanks for being here, guys. See you down in the comments. Like this video, send it to someone who needs to hear it. And until next one.